Hello everybody, happy Sunday. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all of you that show up in any capacity that you were able to, as always. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Little different background. I wonder what you guys all think. You might recognize it from the weekly videos. So everything is done in the same room, and there's actually the wall like right over here is where I have been doing the weekly videos, and I've extended that around to this side here. So doing some little changes in here, some little updates, and some other new things that'll be coming soon. So yeah, I really like it, and just looks just slightly different. So yeah, let's go ahead and put the intention up here for this week. There is a deep-seated inspiration. There is a deep-seated inspiration. It's new moon week. We have been alluding to this new moon for the last few weeks. I've talked about it here and there, both on the weekly video as well as here, because there's a lot going into it and there's been a lot that has been leading up to it. So yeah, deep-seated, but I was also thinking about something about like seeding, like deep seeding inspiration. Again, change the words however it works for you. Add, I have been playing around with putting the intention into a question. I've actually kind of typed it up that way a couple times, but then I've changed it kind of back. So that's something that you could play with as well. Remember that there are a ton of different intentions that we could come up with, right? Just as if you can take any planet and come up with numerous significations, just like you can take any transit, any two planets and the way they're interacting, and you can come up with multiple different ways that they can play out. There's not just one way, which to me is part of what speaks to it being a symbol rather than being something that is causal. If it was causal, it would feel like it would be much more cemented into like less variation and less different possibility. That shows me that there's a lot more at play than just, you know, Mars causes this, Venus causes that. There's a symbolic archetype that they are representing, and then it can play out in a multitude different ways depending on so many different variables in our life. So same thing with the intention. This is just the phrase that has been guided here for me for this session. So feel free to change it to whatever works with you. The intention is always released on Friday, so that way you can have it ahead of the weekly video that comes out Saturday, and you can have, you know, all of that ahead of us coming here Sunday night to meditate on what is going on. So the goal is to have given you opportunities to kind of already sit with what is going on and have a little bit of your own perspective, input, familiarity. I fully encourage you to sit with the intention for a moment before coming to this space if possible, so that way you can just see what comes up. Hopefully you get really good things from the meditation from this session here, but there are invaluable things that I cannot give you that can come from your own psyche and your own meditation on the intention as well as what's going on. The whole overarching goal with all of these parts together is to give us multiple ways to work with, and work with probably isn't quite exactly the right word. By the way that I've been kind of thinking and meditating on this lately, but giving us different ways, different avenues to create entry points for the relationship that we create here with the archetypes, with the astrology, with the planets, with what's going on, and really ultimately within our own personal lives. It's contemplating what's going on a little bit deeper, having a little bit more awareness, a little bit more conscious knowing of what's going on, and then in that way we can start to work with it, because we can start to acknowledge what the astrology is telling us and see it in our own lives, and then when we see it in our lives we can reflect back to the astrology, and then, you know, it's like a mirror that goes back and forth both ways. It kind of bounces off of it, and then there's just so much more meaning behind what happens within life, the way things play out, the way the connections are. And you create this relationship through these different processes, through sticking with it week after week, or, you know, as often as you were able to. Even if that's, you know, just, I don't know, once a month, once every 2 months, once every once in a while, as long as you show up when you are able to in some sort of way to create that relationship that relationship is there, right? It's like a friend that you don't necessarily have to see every day, but the more often you see them, the more you start to talk, the more you start to share, the more, the closer you get, right? But you can step away and you can come back at a different time, and it's still there. So that's really the whole overarching goal with this meditation and with the whole process. This intention this week may feel, I don't know, a little bit simple. I kind of thought it did at first when I put it out there, but there's a lot behind this week, and we've been alluding to it for quite a while, so we might as well just go ahead and get right into that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chart up. We've been doing this for quite a while now. If looking at the chart does not work well for you, if it's overstimulating, if it's just too much and overwhelming, feel free to look away. I think taking in the chart and the symbols and, you know, the slices of the pie in bite-sized pieces, little bits at a time, is helpful and beneficial, and eventually over time it becomes less overwhelming. So just take it in as much or as little as you are able to. So this is the chart of the moment. It's set to my location at the time of our live session, so it's 8:38 p.m. Eastern time right now. Looking not necessarily at the house placements, because it can be different where you are, but looking at the signs where the houses are, looking at the aspects through the chart here and getting a visualization. It gives us just another avenue to, it's another portal, another entryway, another avenue to get into what is going on here. And what I really want to point out for the chart of the moment, we look at this every once in a while. I've talked about before how the chart of the moment can kind of represent this meditation a little bit. And if you look at the ascendant, it's 16 degrees of Cancer. I like that middle Cancer because that is right where my ascendant ruler is, but you know, that's kind of a little bit of an aside there. So yeah, middle Cancer is rising right now, and that means that Jupiter is rising. Jupiter is going to move over the eastern horizon throughout our meditation here while we're in this space. And Jupiter is one of the planets that we're going to talk about today. The first aspect that we have is that the sun is entering the space of the Grand Water Trine that we have been talking about a ton. We've been talking about that for like a month, right? It was like the end of October when Mercury and Mars started moving through this space. So the sun is at 24 degrees of Scorpio right now. You can see that in the 5th house in this chart, and it's trining Jupiter at 25 degrees of Cancer in the 1st house, and it's trining Saturn at 25 degrees of Pisces in the 9th house in this chart. So with this, we've already had Mercury move through there. We've already had Mars move through there. Mercury's going to move back through there at the end of this week into the beginning of this week. But we have the sun entering the space of the Grand Water Trine. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about, and that's where we kind of start off this week. If I go ahead and move forward a couple days here, so I notice it's at 24. The other two planets are at 25. The sun will hit 25 degrees of Scorpio. I think it's like 11 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So you will have that Grand Water Trine in effect today, maybe a little bit yesterday, tomorrow, and really through this week here, and honestly through the next lunar cycle, because it's built into our new moon as well. But I'm going to go ahead and move forward here a couple days, and we're going to see that Mercury is going to re-enter Scorpio. That's one of the other things that we're going to talk about. We're looking in the 5th house again in this chart here, and that's going to bring us into the new moon space. If I go ahead and roll us forward into Thursday, let me see here. We're just going to go forward to get to it. It's like, what is it, like 2 a.m.? Yep. Okay. So Scorpio's now in the 3rd house in this chart. Mercury's moved back into the sign of Scorpio this week. And then we have the new moon at 28 degrees of Scorpio on Thursday morning. At the same time, we have Mercury coming into its cazimi. So Mercury is making its conjunction with the sun. This is the synodic resetting point for Mercury. Anytime a planet comes into contact with the sun, it's a resetting moment. With Mercury cycles between the evening star phase and morning star phase, we're moving from that evening star to the morning star phase. So really it resets the full cycle for Mercury in general. So this new moon that we have going on here, not only does it include the Mercury gazemi, which I do not know how often that happens, but I can tell you I don't see it happen very often, that it happens at like the exact same time. It's literally like 2 hours apart, time frame wise. And all of that is in opposition to Uranus. So if you look at everything that's at 28 degrees of Scorpio here in the 3rd house, if you go directly above it to the 9th house, you'll see Uranus at 29 degrees. So those are our main things that we have going on for this week. We have, starting out this week, Sun is coming into that grand water trine space. We have Mercury moving back into the sign of Scorpio, which sets us up for the new moon, as well as the Mercury gazemi, and all of that is in opposition to Uranus. By the very end of the week, Mercury is going to be moving back into that grand water trine space through the retrograde, and really it's not going to leave that space until it moves back forward in the forward motion. Mercury is going to station, I believe, at 20 degrees of Scorpio, right around the time that it makes a conjunction to Venus there. So it's only going to be, what, 4 or 5 degrees off of that grand water trine. It'll be moving back into it, so it'll be in the applying position. So really, it doesn't ever fully leave that space. Maybe there's a few days there where it gets to be between 3 and 5 degrees, but I think we can say through the rest of November, this grand water trine is activated. And I know that I'm not the only one that is saying that. There's a lot of depth with these aspects that are going on. So the deep-seated part has lots of parts to it, right? There's lots of history to these aspects that we have that's going on. We have history through this week through the retrograde. Mercury has already moved through the space that is moving back into, and it's going to be making contact with the gazemi and with the new moon that is coming through here. So we have a little bit of history in that short little period of time. We're talking about water. Water has history, right? When we think about the significations of water, we've been talking a lot about that recently too. You know, we have our own personal history, right? We have our own personal history of this life, of our past lives. Within that, we get our own memory body, our conscious memory, as well as our subconscious memory. We get our programmings, the ones that we're aware of and the ones that we are not aware of. We get all of our emotions that have led us up to this moment, right? Most of our emotions come from experience. So they come from our history, from the things that have happened to us or we've experienced or, you know, been around or seen or felt or whatever. We get our ancestry, we get our family, right? Those that have come before us. So we get the generations that have come before us. Within that, we get the space that we were born from, the space that we were birthed from. We get, you know, the things that we have inherited, and that is a whole, you know, there can be positive and negative things there. There can be things that are very uplifting and very supportive, very generative, very fertile, very creative, but there can also be things that accumulate within water, right? How many of us have family things that are difficult, like, or, you know, things from our childhood or you know, whatever. You know, it can be very supportive and very loving and very kind and very helpful. And it can be a space of belonging, but it can also be something that has a lot, just a lot that has accumulated, right? So whether that's positive or negative, and it can be a mixed bag. For most of us, I believe that it's probably a mixed bag here. And being deep-seated, we're in the sign of Scorpio. So we are in the place where we are in the dark at the dark, right? Scorpio is the fixed water sign of the fall season. So it's the space where dark is increasing and growing within its strength and growing within its ability. The fastest and the strongest within the whole zodiacal year, within the story of the sun's lifespan throughout the year. So you get things that are a little bit deeper, things that are maybe a little bit darker. And by darker, they can be things that we want to avoid, you know, things that maybe feel a little bit intimidating, but they can also just be those things that we don't necessarily see right away. We have to kind of have that keen vision that Scorpio has, and that attention to detail where we can slow down and observe and notice and not miss any of the little details. It can be peering into those things that maybe we just haven't noticed before and haven't been quite in our eyesight, and now we can see them again. It can be digging deep down into those emotional wells, down into the watery trenches, right? Digging into the mud and into the muck and seeing what you can find in there. And there's a whole array of things that you can find down in that deep space for all of us, right? So this deep-seated depth, peering down into what has accumulated, looking into what has come before us, looking into things that might be a little bit ingrained, is built into this week many, many different ways. And the inspiration, there's water itself is very creative, it's very fertile. Think about the waters of creation. Think about the space that we have all come from. We are, just as humans and people in general, we are, a large part of our body is water. And we come from the waters, we come from the womb. All of us were born from a physical female human, and we are literally in a sack of water. And it's a lot of water. If you've ever had a child or been there when a water has broken, there's a lot of fluid there, and it's protective. It's fertile and it's feeding, and it's a space for a creative energy, because what is the most creative thing in the world, or at least within our human capacity? It's like creating another human, probably, right? Not to say that it's better or anything than other things that we can create, but that's like a big part of the human function, right? And what we can create is we can create other humans. The sun entering this grand water trine feels like it brings in an inspiration of something that has history, because we've already had Mars go through the water trine. We've already had Mercury move through there. Those are two of the three personal planets. The closest planets to the sun, the innermost planets, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, those are the personal planets. And if you think about their significations, they're the things that relate most closely personally to our being and to our body, right? The things that we desire, our ambitions, our mind, the things that bring us together, the things that separate us. Jupiter and Saturn, and certainly the outer planets, those slower moving planets, they have a little bit more wide world view things, and they're a little bit more structural, and they're a little bit more they're just a little less personal than the inner planets. So when I think about how Mars, the place of our ambition, the place of our drives, the place of our motivations, the things that makes us move, the things that shift energy moving through this space already, and we think about the mind moving through there, which is Mercury, the way we perceive things, the resources that come to us, our communications, the way we communicate with others as well as ourselves, the way we communicate with higher self, that has already come through this watery space of connecting to whatever the water has to offer, that creative fertile space, wanting to create something new, any sort of family things that have been coming up for us, anything related to our own being and our own emotions. Those planets coming through there feel like they initiated something. They initiated a motivation, they initiated a shift, and they initiated a shift or a change within our mind of something that was to come, maybe something that has some history, but that right there can be the history for this moment, okay? Now the sun moves through there. The sun represents the one. It represents our soul. It represents our life path and our purpose. It's what illuminates us. So if you think of the sun being the secular one, you could think of it being our soul or our purpose or the eternal being, the being within all of us, right? The one that wants to stay strong and consistent, and the life that is living throughout this entire life here. But it's that deeper part of us. It's our heart space coming through here. So if we've already had this little initiation and this little shift that has come through mentally and through maybe our ambitions and through our movements here, now the sun comes through there. Now there's an illumination. So now we can feel this deep-seated inspiration a little bit deeper, and maybe there's an illumination that can come from within us here. At the same time, we're getting a new lunar cycle that is starting here at this basically the same space within just a few degrees of all of this space here. So the inspiration, where do you see it starting to come to fruition? Where do you see it starting to drive the life purpose and the path? And, you know, maybe think about October, think about the first part of November here, and what has been turning, what has been starting to stir, but maybe you haven't known exactly where to go with it, or, you know, maybe it hasn't been quite clear. You just feel the water starting to stir. I think it was this past week's video where I talked about like the ripples of the water just starting to move things a little bit, and then waves come through, and then the water really starts to move. You can think a lot about physical water this week, and in fact I encourage you to create a relationship with water somehow, even if it's drinking water, if it's washing your hands, if it's physically being by water, if it's being in water, you know, taking a shower, taking a bath, any way that you can connect with water, through a rainstorm, any way that you possibly can. It can even just be thinking about water, right? It can be listening to water sounds, rain sounds, or wave sounds, or things like that. The sun coming through this space feels like it amplifies it and really lights it up in a way that brings it internally into us, into our own space, into our soul. And that's where we start out this week. Then we move into the new moon space, right? We get a new lunar cycle. That lunar cycle is opposite Uranus, wanting to do something a little bit different, wanting to break free from something. So if the, you know, these water trines are bringing up family type things or karma type things or things that have accumulated, maybe now we're feeling that shift to move, right? To sift through the water and pull out whatever impurities that are there. In some sort of way, and move in a little bit different space. Mercury Cazimi comes in there. Resetting moment for Mercury. It's going from the evening star phase, which is that more history-laden, experience-laden, receptive, understanding, feminine type phase, to the youthful, hopeful, you know, going into blazing a new path type phase, the masculine phase, the youthful phase, the morning star phase, where Mercury is going to be above the sun. So it's busting forward before anything else, right? Once it becomes visible. It wants to do something different. It wants to move in a new way. It's moving into a brand new cycle at the same time. So there's initiating things. We are pulling new things. We are pulling new things in while simultaneously processing and letting go other things at the same time. It feels like there's a lot that is flowing through us, like water literally washing over us and bringing in a motivation to do something different, to change and move in a different way, to feel something very deeply that maybe feels a little bit different, or feels like it allows us to be renewed, be refreshed, to be showered with clean water, that we can, you know, go forward with something new, right? Like, I am fortunate enough to be able to get up and have clean water, take a shower every day, and I know the way that makes me feel. It wakes me up. It has me ready to tackle whatever comes forward. If I don't get that shower in the morning, then like it just takes me longer to wake up, right? Or to feel like fully ready, or, you know, whatever the thing may be. So deep-seated inspiration to start something new, to let something go, really reaching into our own space and into our own power, seeing what comes up with it, sitting with it, and going forward with it from there. Both the sun and the opposition to Uranus has this feeling very much about wanting to individuate, really wanting to be individuate through a creatively inspired. What do you want to create? We create things every day. Some of us create really big pieces, works of art. Some of us create things that will stand the test of time, but we all create things every day. We create food that we intake, right? We create meals. We create, even if we don't create the meal, we create a space or a time to be able to consume the meal that somebody else created for us. We create, the steps throughout our day, through our choices. So we create, the habits in our lives. We create the routines that are in our lives. We create and cultivate relationships, big ones and small ones. So we are creating things every day. Some of us may be feeling a little bit more of a pull to create something a little bit specific, or maybe we don't even know what it is, but we just feel a pull to be moving towards something, to individuate, to feel more authentic within ourselves and feel that authenticity within our soul in some sort of way. Are we really being true to ourselves, and are we being true to our emotions? Are we allowing our full being to be seen, or are we hiding in the shadows, or is there some part that still we have not been bringing forward? Lots of water, lots and lots of water here. And Uranus, it's in Taurus, it's in an earth sign, and Uranus is the shakeup. It moves things, electrifies things, and changes them. So changing stability, changing earth, changing the physical realm here, right? Shifting things. Think Uranus and Taurus, I think about like earthquakes, things shifting, big material world shifts. And, by the end of the week, the sun will enter the sign of Sagittarius. So happy birthday to all of our Sagittarius suns out there. When we get the new moon at the very end, the last couple degrees of a sign, so 28 degrees of Scorpio here, we get the new moon at the end of that zodiacal season, right? So there's history within the sign of Scorpio, within Scorpio season this year, right? The sun has already made its way through the first 28 of degrees of that sign. So there's history right there. There's so many levels of this week that says history, there's past, there is something that has led to this moment. And there's probably a lot of different things and a lot of different timelines that have been brought to this moment. So yeah, there's a lot here this week, and there's a lot of space to really create something foundational within that we can feel deep down within our own being. Maybe it feels like something that we're not quite ready to share with others. Scorpio is not the loudest. It can be a little bit private, it can be a little bit sneaky, and it can work behind the scenes and under the radar. So maybe you're not quite ready to share the thing yet, but you feel the thing turning within you. And that's really the space, is the within space here this week. All right, card for this week. The first one that popped up immediately was the Devil in reverse. The Devil in reverse. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of reaching down into those crevices, and don't be afraid to do something different. We often hold ourselves back, and we often are our own worst enemy, right? We often are the devil to ourselves. We often sabotage ourselves. We often will, think we're not good enough, or somebody else can do something better, or, maybe we just give into this material world and we become, somewhat stagnant. So maybe we become lazy, right? We're all lazy at some point. Don't shy away. Don't give in to the temptations to not go forward, to not be your full authentic self. And then I just wanted to have a follow-up from that, and I thought, if we are not afraid of those things that hinder us, and we can peer into the shadows, what are we going to be able to do? What are we going to be able to accomplish? And this is such a simple but great message. It's the Five of Presents here, so that's going to be the Five of Pentacles, so it's related to the earth realm here. The five often is a challenge, right? It's often some sort of difficulty or something to overcome. So if we are not afraid, if we can overcome our own demons and our own devils and the things that maybe have been holding us back, and we have the courage to face whatever it may be. If it's a family karmic situation, we know we can stand strong because we know that we are being authentic, and we know that we aren't doing anything that we aren't supposed to be doing. We're moving in the way that feels the most aligned. We can do hard things. We can overcome the physical challenges if we do that, if the devil is in the reverse position. So it's so simple, but it's so deep, and it's so true. Scorpio season often gives us a reminder of the little bit deeper, the little bit darker things. Wherever Scorpio is within your chart, you can see that that there is a little bit more. You have to look a little deeper there for the lessons sometimes. But when you look, there's a lot of depth, and there's a lot that you can find within the depth, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity to feel empowered. I think there's a lot of opportunity to feel inspired, and to have the courage maybe to move a little bit differently this week here. It can be intense. It can be intense for some of us, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming too, I'm sure, for some people. But I'm ready, I'm excited, and I'm here for it. So like I said, connecting to water. There's so much water that is going on this week. I like to connect to water when I wash my hands. I feel that water running over me, and I think about water. I think about how grateful I am for that water. When I drink water, same thing. You can feel it. You can feel it going right down, into your being. When you take a shower, if you happen to be around rainfall, if you have plants and you water them, you can share in the water, that space. If you can actually physically get to water, if you can actually physically be in water, if you can take a bath, if you can go swimming, if you can get to a river or a lake or whatever, you can look at a picture of water, you can hear water sounds. What else? I don't know. There's a ton of different ways that you can find your own way to connect to water that I didn't even notice. If you have any other suggestions, let me know, because I am always looking for more ways to connect. You can connect to water by connecting to something that water signifies. So connecting to family, connecting to your ancestors. A lot of people will connect the color blue with water, so you can bring that into a visual. There's a lot of different ways. But when we physically connect to the elements, it's just like connecting to the astrology. It's just like, it's another way of creating that relationship with it, right? So yeah, we're gonna step into our own power. We're gonna go deep within today. We're gonna go deep within our meditation here to create something new. So we'll get ready and move into that portion here. There is a deep-seated inspiration. There is a deep-seated inspiration. What is inspiring you right now? What are you inspired to create? Where are you inspired to let go? Where are you inspired to bring something new in? These are all questions that we could play into this week. I'm looking in the comments here. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Nikita. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, depth and being by the ocean. Extra water, extra thirsty, love it. I feel like that's definitely a way that the body is pulling in this watery energy that we have around us. So let's get ready to move into the meditation portion of this. I'm going to leave the intention up for just another minute or two here. There is a deep-seated inspiration. There is a deep-seated inspiration. Where do you feel the depth? Where do you feel like you are just peering into the depth? Have you jumped fully into it? Have you stuck your toe into it? Are you just looking over and seeing your reflection? All right, I'm going to go ahead and move the intention picture off. Now you can see the full background. I really like these curtains. Actually, the tapestry is still hanging back there because it is. I don't know if I'm going to take it down or not. All right, we have our intentional candle as always. It's white. Purity, cleansing, a space for you to create whatever it is that you need for this meditation. There are white sage oil in these candles, so that clears as well as amplifies and calms. We have white, we have the white sage, and we have a selenite cube candle holder thing. So all of that feels very calming. It feels very serene and a blank slate for you to create whatever it is that you need in this week. So I'm going to light the intentional candle. As I do so, I'm going to recite the intentional phrase. And I encourage you to say the phrase with me, however you are able to, or whatever is most comfortable for you. Throughout all of these sessions, take what works for you, leave the rest. There is a deep-seated inspiration. There is a deep-seated inspiration. Light the intentional candle. As I light the intentional candle, the flame ignites. As the flame ignites, it begins to grow. As the flame grows, so does our intention. There is a deep-seated inspiration. There is a deep-seated inspiration. Now this week on the table I have a few different pieces of fluorite. I have some clear quartz, celestialite, and blue kyanite. So all of these to me open up higher realms of communication. The celestialite to me opens up angelic communication and very soft guiding energy. The fluorite opens up higher realm communication within to our higher selves, and the kyanite to me allows me to communicate with the higher realms, including the ancestral realms, so those protectors that are around us, those that have come before us and our family, so ancestry, our spirit guides, you know, whatever phrases work for you. But and the clear quartz always just amplifies, so this is one of my more favorite pieces of clear quartz here. So really just opening up the communication and the understanding for guidance, because when we're going down into a deep space, which we are in the sign of Scorpio, we're talking a lot about inspiration and starting something new and breaking away, but we do need to go down into the depths in order to do that. This can feel, you know, the modern tradition puts Pluto as the ruler of Scorpio. So this can feel, for some people, this can feel very much like a tower moment. Like I have to go down into the basement. I have to go down into the dungeon and see what's there. You know, I have to take my flashlight along with me and see what I can discover before I can ascend back up, right? We have to go down before we can go back up. And that can feel really scary and overwhelming to a lot of people. So that guidance, those higher realm guidances feel really important to me this week, and I know I'm going to be doing a lot of that moving through this week myself here. All right, so if you haven't already, find yourself a nice comfortable seated position, or laying down or sitting or standing or whatever works for you with where you are. If you're ready to go ahead and do so, you may close your eyes. If you're not quite ready to do so, that's okay. Perhaps you can just find a space to let your eyes softly fall, let your gaze relax, not staring intently at something, but kind of just staring beyond where your eyes fall. And perhaps eventually your eyes begin to close. If they don't close during this session, that's okay too. Start to turn your attention inward. As you turn your attention inward, your focus may naturally go to your breath. If it doesn't, bring your attention there. And as your attention turns towards your breath, you start to notice different things, different qualities. You start to notice your breath. You start to observe. As you are sitting with and observing your breath, you may feel tempted to start to change or alter certain parts of your breath to make it feel more ideal. We have time for that. For now, I encourage you to sit with the breath, noticing and acknowledging without changing or altering. Simply sitting with and walking through the inhales and the exhales as they naturally come within your being. Notice what you notice. If your attention begins to drift, gently bring it back. Start again. Your breath is an accumulation of everything that has brought you to this moment. Just as the water accumulates, things accumulate within our body. Emotions, experiences, reactions. Those accumulations directly correlate to the breath. Therefore, the breath that you hold in this moment, everything that has come before it, all of the experiences, all of the emotions, all of the conditionings, everything that has led you up to this moment plays a part in your natural flowing breath. Maybe some things that are deeply ingrained, maybe some things that are a little bit more surface level that have to do with today and how today went for you. But every moment has brought you to here, to this breath. Therefore, if this breath is an accumulation of everything that has come before this moment, when we take the time to sit with, acknowledge the breath without changing, without altering, without feeling the need to improve it, we are honoring the breath just as it is. When we honor the breath exactly as it is, without any expectations, we are honoring our life path that has brought us up to this moment. The history, the accumulation, the positive and the negative, the desirable and the less desirable. When you sit with your breath and walk through the inhale and the exhale as they naturally come, you are honoring a level of yourself that is so personal, so individual, creates a deep, deep connection. Notice what you notice. If your attention drifts, gently bring it back. Not being too hard on ourselves this week is very important. There's a lot of history. With history can come a lot of weight. A lot of things to work through. After you've taken a moment to sit with your breath as it naturally comes, I invite you to start to deepen the breath. Here, we set a goal, a simple goal that allows each inhale to be slightly deeper, slightly longer than the one that comes before it. A progressive goal that allows each exhale to release slightly more air and slightly more tension and allow us to relax slightly more than each that has come before that. The inhales and the exhales slowly lengthen, slowly deepen. As we follow the respirations in and out of our body. Following that naturally progressive pace. As each respiration lengthens and deepens, your attention and your connection within yourself deepens at the same time. With each breath, you sink deeper and deeper into the breath process, into the respirations. And as you sink deeper and deeper, you move closer and closer to your true self, to your higher self, and to your connection with the water. Water brings belief, it brings connection, it brings origins. Water flows and spreads. It continues moving until something physically blocks it. When water has depth, you have to move below the surface to physically see what's underneath there. From the surface, you can't always tell how deep the water is. You can't always tell what is buried below. But today, we move into that below space. We dive headfirst into our own waters. Perhaps you see yourself physically diving into the waters of your own life. What do you see? What do you notice? What do you discover? Diving down deep into the depths, reaching towards the water's floor. Perhaps we don't get there. Perhaps there's enough to see on the way. Moving down deep into the waters, you notice something that catches your attention, so you move towards it. First instinct, what do you see in the waters? Don't second guess whatever you think it is. Take it as a message, take it as a gift. Take it as a connection to the waters. If there's nothing that comes up, that's okay too. But I encourage you to sit with whatever the first thing is that comes to your mind, without second guessing yourself. What is the message that comes along with your discovery? What can you take away from what was presented to you? Now this week has us digging down deep into the trenches, reaching towards the ocean floor, moving through the muck, moving through the sediment. The new moon in the sign of Scorpio. At the same time, Mercury resets. Mercury Kazemi. Mercury says, I've experienced and now I move on to something new. I don't know exactly what it is yet, but I am moving into the heart of the sun for a renewal, for a regeneration, and then I am retrograding, moving backwards away, stepping away. I move in my own direction. I individuate. I initiate. I move authentically. Still reaching down deep into the depths. But then we come forward from the waters. Feel yourself start to float up towards the top, up towards the surface. And just as Uranus simplifies, we come up out of the waters, up towards the surface. If we've been holding our breath, we can breathe freely again. The sun is shining on our face. We feel renewed. We feel the ability to step into a new light, step into a brand new breath. Break free, liberate, move in a different way. Feel the enlightenment of Uranus. Feel the buoyancy of the water around you, lifting you, supporting you, still having that same depth. But you see a different perspective, you see a different light of the water now. You have been through the depths of the water. You have retrieved at least one of the messages. Creative inspiration, reaching down into the depths. A call to feel authentic. It's all there this week. Scorpio can get lost in the dark. Scorpio likes to revisit things. It likes to bring in that history. Today we are presented with the Devil card, with the shadows, with the space that can be a little difficult, but it's reversed. We can let go. We can move past the shadows, and we can get through the hard things. 5 of Pentacles. This week, remember the emotional support. Remember the connective tissues of your life. Remember your loved ones and your friends that are there to help you. Those on this earthly plane and those that have gone before us. Those that we know and those that we don't. Feel the support of the water, just as you feel the buoyancy of the water surrounding you. Just take one deep breath in together. Inhale and release. One more deep breath. Connecting us all together, breathing in and release. This week, may you remember your connection to water. And within that space, may you be able to create something new. Or maybe not new, but a shift within the water. Within the weekly video, we talked a lot about the shifts that can happen within water physically. Water, water, water. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you everybody for joining me today. When we talk about so much water, we're talking about connections. Connections to ourselves and that which has come before us, but it connects us to community. Water connects us to community as well. Water connects. Think about rivers and tributaries and water pathways that connect bigger bodies of water, right? So the avenues and the connections, those come in a lot of different forms. And with Scorpio, having that little more keen eye and looking for things, see what you notice. See where you notice the water that you haven't necessarily noticed before. There's another prompt for you for this week. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate everybody that shows up here in any capacity. If you haven't seen the weekly video, go ahead and check that out. If you are new here and you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that so you don't miss anything that we have here. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. That's where the intention is posted. That's where any announcements are and things like that. We have some new things that are going to be coming up here, so there's going to be more coming up on social media and stuff like that. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for all of that. And connect with water. Connect with water in any way that you are able to. Stay hydrated this week. You know, other ways that you can get water content in too, does not have to be just drinking a glass of plain old water. Food that has high water content, fruit, things like that too. Yeah, have fun exploring the water and seeing what new or deeper connections you can make with the water. So, you know, thank you. I hope everybody has a great week. Happy new moon, happy sun in Sagittarius, because that's where it'll be when we meet next week. And we will, we'll meet here next Sunday in the thick of Mercury coming back into the Grand Water Trine. So thank you. Take care. And blessings to everybody. Thank you.